like to introduce Sansan Zheng. Sansan is a senior here at Timberlane, and her plans are, she's not sure what schools that she's going to look at yet, but she wants to major in business and art. So Sansan, I'm going to let you take the stage and introduce your painting.
So the name of my painting is The Hotel Room. Should I unveil it?
Do you want to say a couple words about it and then unveil
In
it?
my research, critics say that it brings a familiar feeling to us that we can all relate to. It's a feeling of solitude. The woman in the painting is in isolation. There's nobody else in the hotel room. And the woman is actually portrayed by his wife.
Mm-hmm.
She was the model for this, and she is also holding a timetable while she's sitting on the bed, which makes us think that maybe she thinks of leaving Edward Hopper.
Okay, you can unveil the painting and then maybe say a few more words. Okay, thank you. Yeah, you can take it, honey. So here's the painting, Hotel Room. Good job. Sansan's going to say a few more words about the painting.
So the background was really easy since it was really blocked off, but her skin tone was really hard to do since this was my first painting and it was a lot of experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And next time I would work on her last so I had more time.
Great. Thank you so much, Sansan. Good job. Next, I'd like to introduce Lexi Heidenreich. She's a senior here at Timberlane. She plans to pursue art therapy at a community college next year. And the name of her painting is Chop Suey, and it was painted in 1929. So you can review it.
My painting is one of the less famous paintings, and Edward Hopper doesn't have a lot to say about it. But what he did say is that, or the only thing that people say about it is there's a huge debate on the two women in the main part of the painting. They call them, people say they're doppelgangers, which means twins, but which is really strange because they actually don't look anything alike. A lot of the straight lines and the blocks in the painting is a lot like the painting I did last year by Catherine Breer. So this was my second time doing a big painting, and this one was way more enjoyable because I kind of knew what to expect. The painting gets its name from the partially hidden Chop Suey sign, which is the name of the cow.
Beautiful.
The Chop Suey sign is the most enjoyable part of it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Lexi. Beautiful job. Next, I'd like to introduce Olivia Landry. Olivia is a junior, and so far she's toured Pratt, RISD, and she's also interested in touring Parsons School of Design in New York, which is kind of interesting because Edward Hopper did scenes of New York neighborhoods, and he actually attended Parsons. So Olivia's painting is Room in New York. It was painted in 1932, and Olivia, why don't you go ahead and unveil it and then talk about it, okay? Beautiful.
For about 30 hours on this painting, and what you find is that is really significant is that the distance between the man and the woman is really unbridgeable. Edward Hopper had a really bad relationship with his wife, so most of the paintings, the woman is always lonely and they're like never together. The mood is like dread and anxiety. There's just like a lot of tension between them. If I was going to change something, I would have started with the people first and then worked my way out. They were the most difficult thing to do, especially their skin color. This isn't one of his most famous paintings, but what I really loved about it was the difference in the colors, the reds against the greens, the blacks that sets the picture back. I've really worked with like acrylics before, so the skin color on the woman was really hard to do because the difference between the warm and the cool colors. And there's a lot of high contrast. And so I found a quote that he said about this, and I'm just going to read it. "The idea for Room in New York had been in my mind a long time before I painted it. It was suggested by glimpses of lighted interiors seen as I walked along city streets at night, probably near the district where I live, Washington Square. Although it's no particular street or house, but it is rather a synthesis of many impressions."
Julia, I'd like to add that Edward Hopper did not like to talk about his paintings, and when people asked him the meaning, he would say the meaning is all there on the canvas. So it's kind of interesting, it kind of ties in with what you were talking about. He had a very kind of surly personality, and was sort of a difficult person, but an interesting person. Next, I'd like to introduce Julia Mulhall. Julia is interested in looking into medical school next year, and her painting is called Automat, and it was painted in 1927. Julia's going to unveil the painting and then talk about it.
So this painting was first displayed on Valentine's Day in 1927, and an automat is a cafeteria in which food and drinks were obtained from vending machines. And like those ones, his wife Jo was the main subject of the painting. And like most of his pieces, she's lonely. And even though this painting shows a sense of darkness, it was created in the 1920s. And he was known to have a complicated relationship with his wife, and that's why she has a dreadful look. And my first painting was more happier than this one. So
Julia did the boats last year. Yeah. So Julia and Lexi took my class last year and did one AP portfolio. So this year they're doing a whole different portfolio with me. And Lexi did the yellow barn on the right, in case you weren't clear. So you can see the contrast of subject matter and style in the two different paintings. Thank you, Julia. Great job. I'd like to introduce Kat Thomas next. Kat is a senior here at Timberlane, and she is planning on attending Mount Ida College and studying graphic design next year. Kat's going to introduce Western Motel, which was painted in 1957. Yeah, you can unveil it first. Thank you.
And it was one of his most recent paintings. It wasn't very well known, so it's really hard to find information on it. So the painting represents the mobility in the new modern era. So everyone in the 50s, they wanted to leave and they could move around the country a lot easier. So this is probably in South Dakota, the Midwest, because it's called Western Motel. And I enjoyed painting the antique car the most because my family has a lot of antique cars, and I thought that was really cool. And the part I found difficult about it was I painted the walls first, and then I kept going over the lines because it was my first painting. So I would do everything in the middle first, and then do the walls.
Finally, I'd like to introduce Emma Cross. Emma is a junior here at Timberlane. And she, if you didn't recognize any of these earlier paintings, I bet almost everybody in the room will recognize this one. So you can go ahead, Emma, and unveil it.
Nighthawks is one of Edward Hopper's most famous paintings, and after he painted it, he said that it represented isolation while still being surrounded by people. And he felt that that reflected New York City itself, which is where the painting is set. The men in the painting were modeled after Edward Hopper himself, and he used his wife as the model for the woman again, and that was because she told him that she was the only one who would model for him in order to keep him from leaving her. Hopper used bright colors in the interior of the diner in order to show the fluorescent lighting that was just starting to be used in the 1940s. And in my process of painting it, the interior was one of the hardest things to paint. This was one of my first paintings, so it was very experimental and trying different things. And the people were very difficult with trying to get their skin tones again and again. But some of my favorite parts were the street scene in the background with the closed store behind it, and the restaurant's sign, because trying to get the subtle colors was really interesting and fun.
Thank you, everybody. Great job. What I'd like to do at this point is invite people up to talk to the artists, talk about the paintings. The string quartet is going to, thank you, by the way, for the string quartet for coming today to perform for us. And I'd also like to thank Miss Monty's cooking class. She provided all the cupcakes. So I invite people to come up and enjoy a cupcake, talk to the artists, and just look at the artwork. Thank you.
Thank you.